Part 1 expanded approximately 700 words. Red Hollow had never been a town known for keeping its opinions quiet. News traveled fast down its single dusty main street, especially the kind that made people raise their brows and nudge each other in the ribs. So when word spread that Deputy Mark Callahan, one of the most respected, sharp-jawed, broad-shouldered men in the county, was marrying Clara Mae Dawson, the town practically erupted like a kicked anthill. Clara Mae stood at the front of the small wooden chapel, clutching a bouquet of white daisies she'd picked herself that morning. The petals trembled with her hands. She'd woken before dawn, careful as a mouse, brushing her hair and smoothing her dress, hoping, just once, to feel like she belonged somewhere beautiful. The dress hadn't been new, she'd stitched it herself from fabric she'd saved up for over a year. She wasn't blind, she knew it fit tight, pulling at the seams around her waist and arms. But it was white, it was clean, and it made her feel soft instead of invisible. People filled the pews, but not with the warmth she had once believed weddings carried. Women whispered behind paper fans. Men leaned toward each other with smirks. Teenagers snorted into their sleeves. Clara could almost map the room just by following the sting of their laughter. "She's gonna snap that altar clean in half," one ranch hand muttered. "Callahan must have lost a bet," another chuckled. "Poor fella, could have had any girl in town. And he picked her." Clara looked down at her boots, cheeks burning hot as a skillet left on the fire. She'd heard cruelty before, she'd grown up with it, but hearing it here, today, on the one day she hoped she'd be enough, it hollowed her out like a rotted tree trunk. Mark Callahan stood beside her, tall and steady, his hat tucked under one arm. He wasn't the sort to speak unless he had something worth saying, which made him both respected and mysterious. His dark hair curled slightly at the ends, and he kept his face shaved smooth, something he insisted on today because, "Clara deserves the best version of me." He scanned the room, jaw tight enough to crack a walnut. He saw everything, every smirk, every nasty whisper, every darting, mocking glance aimed at the woman he loved. But the worst part wasn't the adults. It was the way some of them tried to hide their laughter when his daughter, Lily Callahan, stood on her seat to see the bride better. She was 6, all freckles and braids, wearing a tiny white dress with dusty cowgirl boots. She adored Clara with the kind of wild, innocent devotion only children could give. Lily waved excitedly from the front row. "Hi, Miss Clara," she chirped. Clara managed a smile, small but real. Lily always found a way to make her feel seen without judgment, without hesitation, without comparing her to anyone else. But as soon as the preacher stepped forward and opened his Bible, a harsh cough rang across the room, forced, theatrical. "Hope them vows come reinforced," a man whispered loudly. Laughter rippled through the chapel like a cruel breeze. Something in Clara's chest cracked. One moment she was standing tall, reminding herself that Mark loved her, that Lily needed her, that she had earned her place at this altar. The next moment, the humiliation was too heavy to carry. Her shoulders dropped, her breath caught. Maybe they're right, she thought, blinking back tears. Maybe Mark deserves someone prettier. Someone the town won't laugh at. Someone Lily won't be teased for. Her voice trembled as she leaned toward Mark. I don't think I can do this," she whispered. "They're laughing. At you. Because of me." Mark's eyes softened immediately, but before he could answer, a small pair of boots hit the wooden floor with a loud thunk. Lily stepped into the aisle. Everyone turned. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't giggling. She wasn't shy. Part 2 expanded approximately 700 words. For a heartbeat, the chapel didn't breathe. Lily's small voice, sharp as a whip crack, echoed off the wooden rafters. The people of Red Hollow, so confident in their laughter just moments ago, now sat frozen, mouths half open, fans halted mid-wave. Clara Mae stood rooted to the floorboards, stunned. Never in her life had anyone stood up for her with such fierce certainty, much less a child. She stared down at Lily, who was planted firmly like a tiny oak, feet apart, fists balled, braids trembling with indignation. Mark let out a slow breath. He knelt beside Lily, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. But his eyes were burning hotter than a summer wildfire. "Sweetheart," he murmured to Lily, "you didn't have to." "Yes, I did." Lily stamped her boot, turning toward Clara. "They were being mean, and it's not fair. Miss Clara's my mama now. She's supposed to be happy today." Something inside Clara broke again, but this time it wasn't pain, it was something gentler, bewildering, warm. Her throat tightened, tears welling, but they weren't heavy like before. Lily wasn't just defending her, Lily was claiming her. The preacher shifted uncomfortably at the pulpit, flipping pages in a fluster. Perhaps we should restore. No, Mark cut in, rising to his full height. Not yet. He faced the crowd, the ranch hands, the store clerks, the blacksmith, the women who'd once flirted with him, the ones who pretended not to judge but did all the same. His stance was calm, but the steel in his voice made several people straighten up. My daughter's right, he said. Some of you ought to be ashamed. A few offended gasps fluttered from the pews. No one dared speak. Mark went on, voice steady as a river. You all came here today, some to support us, sure. But plenty came to laugh. Came to make my bride feel small. Came to treat her weight like an invitation to mock her character. He paused, letting his gaze sweep the room like a slow-moving storm. Women squirmed. Men dropped their eyes. A couple of young bucks who'd been snickering earlier suddenly found the floor real interesting. Clara felt her heart thudding, unsure if she should look at him or look away. No one, had ever defended her with such sincerity, such public bravery. And since you're all so concerned with my choice, Mark continued, let me make this perfectly clear, I didn't choose Clara because I was desperate or because I lost some bet. He shook his head once. I chose her because she's the kindest, strongest woman I ever met. The only one who could calm Lily when she had nightmares. The only one who listens without judgment. The only one who makes this broken little family feel whole again. Silence thickened. A few women exchanged guilty glances. One dabbed her eyes. Lily turned to Clara, her voice suddenly small again, fragile but full of truth. You make Daddy smile. He never did that before you. Mark swallowed hard. He didn't deny it. Then he stepped closer to Clara, gently taking her hands in his. Clara tried to steady her breath, but it shivered anyway. Clara, he said softly, lifting her chin with the barest touch, I've loved you since the first time you brought Lily cookies when she was sick. And not because you're perfect. Not because you try to be something you're not. But because you are good. Because you are gentle. Because you make this town better just by living in it. His words wrapped around her like a warm quilt. Her vision blurred again, but this time she didn't look away. And if anyone in this room can't see that, he said, eyes flashing, that's their shame, not yours. Someone in the back rose. Halfway, then sat again. Another woman cleared her throat awkwardly. A ranch hand whispered, man's got backbone, earning a sharp elbow from his wife. Lily tugged at Clara's dress, earnest as a sunrise. Miss Clara, do you still wanna be my mama? The question hit Clara harder than any insult ever had. She knelt, her dress pulling tight, but she didn't care anymore. She cupped Lily's face, thumb brushing the girl's freckles. Part 3, expanded approximately 700 words. The preacher opened his Bible again, but now the tension that had choked the room earlier had softened. People sat straighter, not from pride, but from discomfort, embarrassment, and the dawning realization that the cruelty they'd tossed around so casually had been witnessed by a child. A child who had more courage and honesty than the whole room combined. Clara stood taller than she had all morning. Her hands still trembled faintly, but not from fear. Something was different, like the center of her chest had finally stopped collapsing in on itself. Mark stood beside her, closer than before, as if he wanted to shield her from even a single unkind glance. Lily slipped between them, holding both their hands in her tiny ones like she was the glue binding them together. The preacher cleared his throat, this time with a gentleness he hadn't shown earlier. Dearly beloved, we gather here. The doors of the chapel creaked as a latecomer stepped in. Heads turned sharply. Old Mr. Hayes, the grumpiest man in Red Hollow, stood with his hat in hand. He wasn't known for attending weddings unless there was free wine involved. But when he caught Clara's eye, something in his lined face softened. He nodded once, slow, apologetic, respectful. Clara let out a small breath. Maybe the world wasn't as cruel as she'd always feared. Or maybe kindness was contagious. The preacher continued the ceremony. When it came time for the vows, Clara's heart pounded so hard she was sure people could see it beneath her dress. But Mark squeezed her hand once, firm, grounding, and the panic loosened its grip. Mark went first. I, Mark Callahan, take you, Clara Mae Dawson, to be my wife. His voice didn't waver. It carried strength, but there was tenderness beneath it, like a river under ice. I promise to stand with you, protect you, honor you, and love you. Not just on the good days, but especially on the hard ones. He paused, eyes softening. And to never let anyone make you feel small again. Clara swallowed hard, her breath stuttering. Now it was her turn. She opened her mouth, but no words came, not at first. Not because she didn't know what to say, but because her whole life she'd spoken softly, carefully, trying not to take up too much space. Now all eyes were on her, waiting, listening. For the first time, she didn't shrink from it. I take you, Mark Callahan, she began, voice trembling but brave, to be my husband. You and Lily both. I promise to love you, to keep your home warm, to stand by you even when this world isn't kind. And I promise, she took a shaking breath. I promise to believe that I deserve this. That I deserve you. Mark's eyes glistened. He pulled in a breath like her words had struck him deeper than anything he'd expected. The preacher wiped at his brow. By the power vested in me. Wait. Lily darted forward, nearly making the preacher drop his Bible. You forgot the rings. Gasps and chuckles filled the room, the first sound not tinged with cruelty all morning. Mark laughed under his breath and reached into his pocket, pulling out 2 simple silver bands. He handed the smaller one to Lily, who passed it to Clara with utmost seriousness, like she was handling a sacred treasure. Clara slipped the ring onto Mark's finger. Her hands were still trembling, but it felt different now, like excitement, like hope, like stepping into sunlight after years of living in shade. Mark slid the ring onto Clara's finger with ceremony, but then, without waiting, he knelt so he was eye level with Lily. You want to say something too, sweetheart? The girl nodded vigorously. Yes. She stepped toward Clara and took her hand. I give you my whole heart. Forever. The chapel melted into a soft murmur. Even the toughest ranch hands blinked rapidly. Mark stood again, voice steady. Now it's official. The preacher smiled. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. Mark didn't hesitate. He cupped Clara's face gently, giving her every chance to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. She leaned into the kiss with all the courage she'd gathered today. It wasn't dramatic or showy, it was real, steady, filled with the weight of every moment that led them here. Lily squealed, wrapping her arms around both of them before the kiss even ended. We're a family. The crowd parted as they stepped out of the chapel, sunlight pouring over them in thick golden ribbons. Dust swirled in the warm breeze, lighting them up like a scene from an old Western painting, Mark tall and strong, Clara glowing despite her tears, and Lily bouncing between them like a spark that had ignited the whole day. Behind them, someone whispered, she really is beautiful. Clara didn't hear it, she didn't need to, because Lily squeezed her hand, looked up with absolute certainty, and said, I told you, Mama, you're pretty.